My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Lyricist Paul Francis Webster penned the popular classic song, Love is a Many Splendored Thing. Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Sonnet 43 asked, How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Mick Jagger sang, Love is a bitch. Poetry, music, literature, and the arts have extolled the ups and downs of love since humanity first began to express its feelings about the topic. But perhaps the bard himself, William Shakespeare, came closest to the truth when he said, Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. What is the true connection between the mind, or more specifically the brain, and love? Does modern neuroscience have answers to the story and the glory of love? My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Dr. Fred Nour, says there is exacting science behind love, and that awareness of how this works can lead to true and lasting love. Dr. Nour is a nationally and internationally renowned neurologist who was certified in both neurology and neurophysiology by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology. He's a member of the Royal College of Surgeons of England and a licentiate of the Royal College of Physicians of London. He's a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Society for Brain Mapping and Therapeutics, the American Academy of Neurology, and many others. He was named one of America's top doctors 6 times, as well as many other awards. He joins us this evening to share his new book, True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. Please welcome Dr. Fred Nour. Good evening, Dr. Fred.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is a fascinating topic, and I think will be an eye-opener to many of my listeners.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Fred, tell us a little bit about your background and what spurred your curiosity about the science behind love.
Okay, it basically happened in 2 phases. First phase happened by accident. I'm a neurologist, so I treat different diseases. One of them is multiple sclerosis, a disease totally unrelated to love, but 2/3 of the patients are females, 1/3 are males. And in 1989, I decided to start a support group for these people to educate them about the disease, the treatment, and discoveries, and so on. Then in 1992, the meeting was going to fall on Valentine's Day. So they came to me a month before and said, it's Valentine's Day. We don't want to hear about multiple sclerosis. We want to hear about love. So make the talk this next time about love. So I sat down, composed a lecture, called it The Anatomy of Love, and gave them what I knew at the time about love. The reception was mixed. Some loved it, some hated it. One lady, I remember, stood up and told me, you killed the mystique of love. Love is magic that comes from heavens. It has nothing to do with anything physical. I thought the lecture is over and that's it. But next year, in January, they told me, don't forget, next month is February. We want your love lecture. So I had to go and find what's new related to love and add it to the lecture. After that, it became a routine lecture every February of every year until I left Chicago in 2006. I forgot about it until my 2 daughters went to college. And both of them were shocked with the wide-held belief among young people that the first step in love is sex, that you have to have sex with multiple people in order to find love. When they discussed it with me, and I said, that's not true. There's absolutely there's no evidence for that. Their friends told them, yes, there is. It's based on science, based on scientific evidence. So I said, okay, have them show you the evidence. So they gave her a book written by a sex researcher. You need to mention the book, or I can mention, called The Anatomy of Love. And in the book, and I read one part of the book, no sex, no orgasm, no flood of these cuddle chemicals, oxytocin and vasopressin. And with orgasm, a woman distinguishes a patient, empathetic Mr. Right from self-centered Mr. Wrong. These pills, the antidepressant, may jeopardize a woman's ability to select a suitable mate. Last, with orgasm, a man deposits seminal fluid that contains dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, vasopressin that can potentially push a woman over the threshold into falling in love. In other words, we have to have sex in order to find love. I looked at all the studies and I find it's not real science. It's Hollywood medicine, in my opinion. So I felt an obligation to my daughters and to their colleagues is to correct the science and try to, in a sense, combat the pseudoscience in the field of love that are done just for Hollywood entertainment. So I went and I wrote my book and I published the book for that purpose, to combat the pseudoscience and explain to people what is the real science behind love.
Now, love seems so irrational and uncontrollable. How can it be explained scientifically?
Love is not irrational or uncontrollable. Love is unconscious and automatic. Your heart beats at a certain rate. You cannot, with your mind, make it go faster or slower. You cannot control it. Your stomach growls. You cannot consciously stop it from growling, or you cannot at one time decide, okay, I want to make my stomach growl. These are not irrational, these are uncontrollable because they are unconscious. Love comes from one part of the brain called the intermediate limbic brain, which is automatic system. We have no conscious control over that. And that's why we feel it's irrational and uncontrollable, because we don't have conscious control. It's all an automatic system.
Now, that part of the brain, the limbic part of the brain, what else does that do?
Oh, it does a lot of other function. It introduces alteration of perceptions based on our emotions. So find when people are in a romantic phase of love, they see the beloved as most beautiful. And that's because of the alteration happened by the intermediate limbic brain. Very similar, same chemical system that's in schizophrenics. And they start to see people talking to them when they are not. So it alters your vision, it alters your hearing. Their voice is so beautiful, like people with hallucination hear voices talking to them. It causes hoarding. Your schizophrenic keep everything as valuable. People in love keep every tiny little piece, every cup, every rose, everything as very valuable, and they want to keep it forever. It is the same chemical systems in both.
And does the limbic system have anything to do with addiction?
It does, yes. Addiction comes from multiple chemicals in the limbic system.
So this limbic system is actually something that we have to really know a lot about to truly understand the nature of both love and also the way we react in life.
It is the part that's responsible for the unconscious component of love, which is the biggest component. There's a small conscious component,
Now,
which has to do with selecting the matching, in a sense, intellect or intellectual ability of the other mate.
I was just going to say, so what's the scientific rationale that we're attracted to some people but not to others?
It is very interesting because it's done automatically and unconsciously. When we see somebody, we say, let's take an example. Two women sitting next to each other, of course they don't look exactly the same because they both have different genes. Now they both look at a man. One of them will say, oh, that man is so handsome. The other one says, oh my God, no, he's ugly. They did studies to look at the genes of that man compared to the genes of the woman who likes him, and examining the health of the resulting fetus or baby from these two, and find that that baby will be healthy. That's why the first woman see him as attractive. When they take the genes from that man and mix it with the genes of the second woman, the baby will be less healthy. So she unconsciously perceives him as not attractive. So our brain, our limbic system, directs us to the better to the best possible genetic match for our own unique genes.
Now, what are the components in the limbic system that work that way? In other words, by looking at someone, how does the limbic system know that these people are genetically well matched to have a healthy child?
They found through vision, through hearing. This man sounds sexy, this man does not. It's unconscious control of hearing, and it is through smell. In smell, we pick up the so-called pheromones, chemical release from every person, and they are like the fingerprints. Every pheromone for one individual doesn't match any other individual anywhere. You know, dogs can get lost from their owner and find them by smelling their tracks all the way back, because they can smell the pheromones, identify them specifically to that person. So a pheromone basically sends a genetic sample of you, and the other person, through smell, through a system, will check that genetic system against their own, and if there's a match, if that person smells good, is attracted, and if there's no match, it makes you feel they don't smell good, I feel nauseated being close to them, I better go away. So direct us towards who we should be loving and who we should not be loving. And that's why you have to meet the person in real life in order to really have that interaction.
Amazing. His book is called True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love, Dr. Fred Nour, and we'll be back with more of Dr. Fred after these words from the OMTimes radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace, learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you will feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening is Dr. Fred Nour. He's the author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. So we started talking about the limbic system and how the limbic system has the ability to use certain clues when we meet people to tell us whether they're compatible or not in terms of genetics for the production of a healthy child. Now, how can people tell the difference between love and sexual attraction?
Love is towards one specific individual and that individual only. Sex is always towards multiple people, a series of individuals. So a person could be attracted sexually to multiple people, but if they are in love allows you to be connected to only one person. So if you're attracted to someone based on sex, sexually attracted, you're likely to be thinking about the sex with them, and all your thought content will be about how wonderful sex is going to be or was or is. When you're in love with one person, your thought content, you think about that person, how happy you'll be with them, how happy they will be with you, and you will think differently.
Now, what's the difference in the chemistry between love and sexual attraction?
And they're two different systems. The same author of this book called The Anatomy of Love claimed that love starts by sex and then evolves to true love. I say this is absolutely not true. If it is the same system, it should always behave in the same way. How can you explain people meeting each other, never having sex, and falling in love? There are cultures that don't allow sex before marriage. Do the young people fall in love with those? Do they have all the manifestation of love or not? They do. We also know stories of people that have sex with other people that was good sex, but they never loved them. Think about ex-presidents, heads of armies, senators, and so on. They had good sex with people. Once things got tough, thank you, goodbye, and that was it. Where is the love? If love starts by sex, they should have loved these men and women and should have fought for them. But it is not. Sex is not love. We also have something called satiety. When you eat, you feel satisfied. You have a big meal, and at the end of the meal, when you're full, they give you the dessert. It's delicious. You want to eat it, but you say, sorry, I can't. I'm so full. There's no way I can eat anything else. There's a center in the limbic brain called satiety center that tell you to stop. We have a satiety center for sex. I had sex, that's it. I'm not interested anymore. Good night. While for love, nobody ever feels I had enough of love. Everybody wants more all the time for a lifetime because it's a different system. Sex hormones, especially androgens, are known to stimulate the sexual appetite. And when you give it to people, you see the frequency of sex goes up. But does the love increase? Do people who take these hormones feel, I love my wife or my beloved more now than before I took the sex hormones? It makes absolutely no difference because it's a different system.
Let's talk a little bit about the chemistry because I'm fascinated by this. So you mentioned oxytocin. What is oxytocin? How does it work?
Okay, it's not just oxytocin. There are two chemicals. One is called oxytocin and one is called vasopressin. They are equally important and equally have the same effect. There are more oxytocin in women than men and more vasopressin in men than women, but both of them have both. So both together are called nonapeptide, meaning 9 amino acids. It's a medical name. And this is responsible for what I call true love, the long-term, permanent, strong attachment and identification. Best example to illustrate that is look at a mother who has a child. If you tell her, I'm going to give you $1 million for the child, would you give him to me? She'll say, no. I'll give you $1 billion. No. $1 trillion. No. Why is that? Because a very strong binding that nothing else could break it. The same chemicals in love cause that bonding between the two. I see it in neurology in people with catastrophic illness. If they are in true love, they stick together no matter how much, no matter what the suffering. Look at your grandparents, that one of them got sick and how the other one stayed with them every single day and night, forever. It's because they had true love.
What's to stop animals from falling in love with humans and vice versa?
You cannot really do that. Love is automatic and conscious. And you cannot make yourself love somebody, or you cannot stop somebody from loving you. It's like the growing of the stomach. You cannot make it happen. You cannot stop it. It just happens by itself.
So the attachment, for example, of pets to people and people to their pets, that's a different system altogether.
It's a different system. The attachment to your children and your children to you is slightly different. Same system with some variation. For example, in the mice, they have a mice and put some method to measure the chemicals instantaneously in their brain, which one of them is dopamine for the sex drive. They bring in a female in heat, a female mouse, and the hormones increase by like 20, 30, 40 times. And as a result, they have the desire to have sex with that female mice. Then later on, they brought their own offspring, the little babies, that were females also, to the same male mice. And what happened? The opposite. The hormone dropped dramatically from like 10 to 1. So there's a mechanism that separates sexual love to another person and the love for your children. The love of your children suppress your sexual desire toward them. If this is diseased, it's a disease that can cause incest and other things. But normally, the system is designed where when it's another romantic relationship, it increases the sex hormones, can increase the sex drive, while if it's an offspring, it suppresses it. So there's a difference between the two systems.
That's fascinating to me. Let's say that there's a brother and a sister who were separated at birth and never know each other, and they somehow by chance meet in a lifetime. Is there something built into them that will stop the attraction?
It is. Once they check their pheromones, they will somehow feel that they're not attracted to each other.
So there's something that nature has built into us to prevent incest from healthy people.
Correct. There are multiple things, yes.
That's fascinating. That really is fascinating. Is the instinct to love someone more important than having a list of what you're looking for in a partner?
Absolutely, yes. If you select a person who is not a genetic match for you, and as I said, every individual is different, there are no two people on the face of the earth that look and behave exactly the same. And that applies to both sides. So it is the best match between one particular unique individual and another one particular unique individual. So that is unconscious, and that is the basis of love. If you don't have that, you cannot have true love. And there's a physical or medical reason for that. So they say you can't buy love. Or some people say you can marry for love, you can marry for money, but you cannot have both. There is a reason why when you marry somebody for money or promotion or other benefits, you never ever fall in love with that person. You never ever have true love. Because falling in love with a man is for a purpose, and that is to prepare the brain for true love. If you don't have that phase, you don't have the other one.
So if, for example, a woman creates an inventory of the qualities she's looking for in a mate, and she meets somebody, and she has that natural, the chemical attraction, but the list does not match what she's looking for in terms of the specifics of that person, she could still fall in love with that person, even though it's contrary to what she was looking for.
That's correct, because most of it is an unconscious system. Part of it is the conscious, or the new brain, checks some features of common intelligence, common interests, common backgrounds, and what they can do together. That's fun for both of them. But that's not exactly love. That's just sort of part of their happiness related to love.
You know, it's interesting, in retrospect, thinking about, for example, the royal families in Europe over the years and people being put together because of the nature of royalty and the maintenance of the royal structure, there was probably a lot of miserable people matched together.
Probably so. As you know, at this time, also mistresses were very popular. And a lot of that is based on real science. Let me tell you about an experiment that I thought was interesting. They took, let's say, 200 couples that cheat on each other and 200 couples that don't cheat on each other. Then they took samples of their tissue to look at the genetic mix and found that those that don't cheat on each other is because the genetic mix produces healthy children. So each body feels unconsciously, automatically satisfied that they are doing their biological function in life, which is to produce healthy children. Found that those that cheat on each other, their genetic match is not compatible with producing healthy children. And that's why they feel unconsciously, I'm not satisfied. I have to go somewhere else to try to fulfill my biological duty of producing healthy children. And when they go and look at whom they cheated with and look at their genes compared to theirs, they find it's matching better to produce more healthy children.
Just out of curiosity, have you studied whether menopausal women and men, for example, who have had vasectomies, do they lose that chemical nature?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with genes and mechanism of checking the gene through pheromones, and somehow it has an effect on our vision and our hearing. If you look at people at websites, you should look at the picture of a person, decide right away, yes or no, and found that has some scientific basis. We unconsciously somehow detect that.
This is truly fascinating, Dr. Nour. My guest, Dr. Fred Nour, he's the author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. Dr. Nour, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about your work.
The book is available at Amazon in USA and Canada. It's going to be available in Europe, I think, by next Valentine's Day. And just order it from Amazon. You can get it from other places, but it takes a lot longer and harder.
And do you have a website, sir?
I have a website called True Love Book. All one word, truelovebook.net.
And we'll be back with more of Dr. Nour and how to use science to understand love after these words on the OMTimes radio network.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Are you in an interfaith relationship and thinking of getting married? For 18 years, Reverend Laurie Sue Brockway has been creating personalized, loving, and romantic ceremonies for couples of all faiths and cultural backgrounds. Reverend Laurie Sue's sensitivity to the needs of interfaith couples is reflected in the compassionate and inclusive way she addresses the concerns of parents and families. Reverend Laurie Sue is also the author of several best-selling books on interfaith weddings and wedding vows. Selected as one of the top interfaith officiants by New York Magazine, Reverend Laurie Sue serves couples in the New York metropolitan area and beyond. Find out more at her website, yourinterfaithwedding.com.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
For millions of kids across America, when school lunches end, hunger begins. And summer isn't fun when you're hungry. Let's make summer the season to end hunger. Are you hungry to help? Join Feeding America to fight child hunger. We've got ways you and your family can pitch in, including fun projects you can do with your kids, like growing a family garden and donating the harvest, or setting up a lemonade stand in your neighborhood. Go to feedingamerica.org/hungry to help for ways to inspire and empower your kids to take action in the fight to end hunger. That's feedingamerica.org/hungry to help. This is a public service message brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Can I get sprinkles on it?
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening is Dr. Fred Nour. He's the author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. So, Dr. Nour, we were talking about how people select a partner and select a mate and the chemistry involved. How can we trust our instincts if we have not chosen well in the past?
Well, that's the beauty of the system. It has a sort of a fail-safe mechanism called falling out of love. Falling out of love happens to everybody because the romance phase has a purpose, and once the purpose is achieved, then it has to end. And when we fall out of love, all our senses go back to normal, and then we see the reality about our mate. What people call love is blind. Suddenly you become not blind and see the reality. And it's a safe mechanism for us to make correction to our mate selection. It is designed specifically for that. So I believe that falling out of love has benefits. To give you a second chance, a second check to look at who you are with. And that should be the time to realize that the person I'm with is not a good match for me, that I should step back and start all over again, to choose a mate, wait until I fall in love with them, and so on. So the system somehow manages itself. It prevents errors.
Now, you say that romance can never last more than 3 years. How does the system work to set that timer in place?
No, it's not set that time. The answer to the question is identical to answer to the question, why does pregnancy last for 9 months? Why not 2 years, 3 years? What does it have to end? Because the purpose of the pregnancy was achieved, so there's no need for it. It has to stop. The purpose of romance is to prepare the brain for the true love phase. When you are in a romantic phase of love, you release chemicals, like 4 or 5 of them, called monoamines, and the function is to increase the non-peptide, oxytocin, vasopressin cell numbers, as well as the number of receptors for them. So as a result, you have a very big system to respond to true love, and you have big true love. If you don't have the romance phase, you cannot have the big, strong, true love phase. That's why those that don't fall in love, marry for money or benefits, don't have the falling in love, don't have the effect of these chemicals on the non-peptide system. As a result, they cannot love.
Okay, you talk about 4 phases. You mentioned the falling in love phase. You talk about 4 phases of love in your book, True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. Please explain the 4 phases.
Okay, first phase is mate selection. Nobody ever fell in love, but I don't know who I'm in love with yet. I'm just in love, but I'm waiting to find somebody. Your first step, you always select a mate. And as we talked earlier, this is predominantly done unconsciously, automatically, and your body will tell you this is the one. And once you choose the mate, that's when the second phase, falling in love or romance, happens. Why do we call it falling? Because it happens suddenly, unexpectedly, forcefully, and there's nothing we can do to stop it, and all we can do is accept the result. You see someone, bang, you feel you're in love. And that phase is based on a group of chemicals called monoamines. And the purpose is to prepare for the last phase, phase 4. So they multiply the number of the cells for non-peptides and the number of receivers for that cells. And when that goal is achieved, that romance or falling in love phase ends, and you go to the falling out of love phase, which is a phase when that goes back to normal. So you can see reality, you can identify who you are with. If you made a good choice, you will wait to go to the true love phase. If you made a wrong choice, then you can leave that person and start all over again to select a mate, then fall in love, then fall out of love, then things are going, you go to the next love. So the second phase is romance or falling in love. Third phase is falling out of love. And fourth phase is true love. And true love is based on monoamines, and that lasts for a lifetime, and that has strong bonding, as I said about the mother and her daughter, and strong identification. The mother left that particular child and no one else. If a mother have a child who say have diabetes, and you tell I'm going to give you another child, looks exactly the same like him, only different, he doesn't have diabetes, so as a better child, would you accept the change? Absolutely not. You would rather have the child with problem with diabetes than the other one? Yes, because I'm uniquely identified with that particular one and nobody else. It is the same with true love. You identify with one particular person and nobody else. Even if the better, the worse, whatever it is, you have more money, it doesn't matter. I'm totally attached and bonded to that one particular unique individual and nobody else.
Is it possible, once you get past the attraction and romance, to get stuck in one of those phases?
If you fall out of love, and unconsciously you find that sort of that person is not a match, that now everything they do is annoying and irritating and this and that, maybe they're not a good match for you. And you can move. But some people, for social reasons, they already have children and we're going to hurt their children and so on and stay in the relationship. And that happens a lot.
How do you explain what people have called toxic relationships, where they realize it's bad, for whatever reason they just stay? Is there any chemistry behind that, or is that just psychological?
No, this is psychological, mainly conscious brain. You think in your mind, which is the conscious brain, the new brain, that no, I should be doing this, I should not be doing that, and you do that. And that's, I think, what causes a lot of problems, is we try to use our conscious brain to make decisions that they're not qualified to. It reminds me of the analogy of an aeroplane. It's designed by the aerospace engineers. Then it goes to the marketing department to look at the aeroplane. If the marketing department does not modify the aeroplane that much, it will succeed and it will fly. But if you allow the marketing department to do too many changes to the aeroplane, it will fail. And the engineering department is the limbic brain, the automatic unconscious part for love. The marketing department is the new brain, the conscious brain. So we should allow the engineer to design it, and with little modification from the marketing department, little influence from the conscious brain. But we do the opposite. We keep buying books and reading things, how to make the marketing department design better airplanes, not realizing that that's not the job. They really don't know how. It's the job of the other one. The job is to have it less involved rather than more.
Absolutely. What about people who stay in abusive relationships?
That's usually sort of psychiatric disorder. Some people find joy in the suffering. Look at teenagers going to scary movie. They're so scared until they wet their pants. You go out and say, what, I'm going to go and see it again. Because they, at that phase, they find joy in their pain or their suffering. And some people grow up to have diseases related to that. They enjoy being hurt and always look for a situation and do whatever they can so they can get hurt because they unconsciously find joy in that. But this is psychopathology. This is psychiatric disorders. Love is a normal behavior among normal people.
You look at couples who go into the true romance phase and they're together literally forever. And then one of them passes away. And quite frankly, I've seen many couples where one passes away well into their 80s or 90s, and then very shortly the other one passes away. Is there any chemistry behind that?
I don't know. There's some element, I think, of will in consciousness or some automatic thing in death. I've seen it many times. We have somebody who's almost dying, but they stay there until the children come from all across the country or from abroad and so on, and they see them, and half an hour later they die. So I believe there's some unconscious element in that. What the explanation is, we don't know, but I've seen it multiple times.
So it's possible that when one partner in a long-term true love relationship passes away, that the other one basically says, I have no purpose for being here anymore, and decides to depart also.
We have seen that, yes.
Absolutely. That's interesting. Now, today's advertising is filled with dating websites promising true love and marriage, but you say these websites are a waste of time and money. Why?
Number one, they're not dating websites. They are websites for finding people looking for a mate. And you can see pictures of these people. You cannot hear them. You cannot smell them. So it really is not a good way to find love. And some claim that there's personality types that if you find somebody with a matching personality, then you'll find love and happiness. And there's no evidence for that. Best evidence is reality. Look at the number of people on Match.com, and number of people on Chemistry.com, and what's the other one, eHarmony. Ask people who use this site, did you really find it an easier and better way to find that? No, it does not. Because personality does not depend on the limbic brain. It depends on the new brain, conscious brain. So having somebody who matches your new brain is not going to be enough to find true love. You have to find someone that first matches you at the level of the limbic brain. Then the conscious brain comes after that.
So the old ways of courting really are far superior, and being in social situations with living people around you is far better than this system.
That's correct, and the proof is in the pudding. Talk to people who tried both, and they tell you, "Oh, I gave up on this on this matching website and so on, and now I go and sort of meet people and found that a much better way." That's what people at least tell me.
Fascinating. My guest is Dr. Fred Nour. He's the author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love, and we'll be back with more of Dr. Nour and this amazing work after these messages from the OMTimes Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the Grads of Life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening is Dr. Fred Nour. He's the author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. Dr. Nour, we're talking about dating sites and how inefficient and how unexacting they are. Today's young people often date digitally using text messages and social media. How does that affect their ability to find the right mate and true love?
Again, when you text somebody, you don't physically see them, hear them, or smell them. So you cannot use the system that nature designed for us to find love. So you can find somebody who's intellectually a match for you, but not genetically a match for you. So this relationship are not likely to succeed or not likely to be very happy.
Absolutely. Let me take this to another level. Has the process of evolution, as you see it through science, has brought us to this point where the science of true love exists? Do you see our evolving, changing in the next century, 100 years, 1,000 years, where the chemistry is going to change?
The answer is no. I have in my book the oldest story I can find about love, which is 4,000 years ago. And I discussed, did love change in the last 4,000 years? When you read the details, it's exactly the same. Absolutely no change. It took millions of years for that system to evolve, so it'll probably take millions of years for the system to change. Some people talk about so-called slow love, that now people take longer to get married, as if love happens when you say I do, and that love does not happen when you meet someone and you select them as a mate, and that's totally wrong. Love happens when you fall in love with someone, not when you stand on the aisle and say, I do. There's a difference between marriage and love.
And what about in our mobile society where people are constantly moving, going to school, moving to new parts of the country and the world? How does that affect what's going on?
Well, if people fall in love and they're strongly attached to each other, most likely they will move together. If you say, oh, thanks, I'm going somewhere else, it's a long distance and it's not convenient, thank you, then that's not love. That's just convenience.
Is there a way to keep the euphoria of love alive in a long-term relationship?
The euphoria of love is in romance. It changes in true love. In true love, you still feel your mate is wonderful. You feel your mate is the most attractive and sexy one, and many studies prove that. And you perceive them as less sort of annoying and more enjoyable, or you forget about their shortcomings. Let me give you an example here. The chemical substance responsible for true love are the same chemical substance, or oxytocin, at least one of them, that's used during labor. If I have two women, we discover that when we start to have oxytocin injection. One have a small baby that goes through labor in 1 hour and it's over. The second one has a big baby that moves very slowly, so we give her large quantity of oxytocin to push that baby through, and the delivery will last for, say, 24 hours. If you go 3 or 6 months later and ask the two women, how painful was the labor and how long did it last? We were shocked to find that the first woman, who was not given much oxytocin, recalled the pain more clearly and recalls it as being more severe. And the woman who was given a lot of oxytocin remembered the pain as being very short and very mild. It's the same chemicals that happen in true love. So when you are in true love with somebody, their faults appear to be less painful, less annoying, and you tend to forget it. So you unconsciously become accepting and forgiving. While if you are not in true love, then you recall the things more intensely and you never forget them. He did this and that to me 25 years ago. When I discovered that, I did a little experiment, not scientifically, but it's real. I once went for a dinner with two couples, one that I know truly in love, and one she was dating a guy she didn't like, but thought she was in college, and when I finished college, I'm going to go somewhere else and dump him. Since she discovered she's pregnant, so she married him, but she never loved him. During the dinner, we had a discussion where each husband sort of disagreed with the wife and put her down. So a year later, when I learned that, I thought, let me call them and see how they recalled that. The woman was in true love with her husband, didn't recall anything. He didn't do anything. It was wonderful. It was a great evening. And the other one, I'm still mad about it. A year later, I felt so embarrassed and humiliated. He's so mean. He's so this. He's so that. The chemicals of true love altered the perception of the woman in true love, not to remember it at all, not to annoy her, she continues to be happy. The other woman, because she doesn't have the oxytocin effect, feel the pain more intense and feel that the pain lasts a lot longer. So true love alter your perception of the other one, make you happier with them, make you accepting them, make you feel anything wrong or annoying is a minor thing, is not worth worrying about, you forget about it quickly.
What else does oxytocin do beside the love factor?
Oxytocin normally for multiple things. For main effect, it causes lactation and causes labor.
So lactation, labor, and love, are there any other effects? And how does oxytocin affect men?
Men has, it's like sex hormones. Men have more testosterone, a little bit of estrogen. Women have a lot of estrogen and a little bit of testosterone. Men have a lot of vasopressin and a little bit of oxytocin. Women have a lot of oxytocin and a little bit of vasopressin. So there's some overlap. All the studies are done on oxytocin for a reason. If you give oxytocin, to get oxytocin to go to the blood, you have to go to the brain, you have to give it by injection or inhalation. It has to go to the blood and from the blood to the brain. Oxytocin in the blood, because it's used in labor and lactation 2 or 3 years, does not cause harm. Vasopressin in the blood, it causes problem. If you give it right away, it causes water intoxication, which could be fatal. If you block it, you get another disease called diabetes insipidus, which is also a serious disease. So you cannot practically use vasopressin to do studies, and it's much safer to use oxytocin. That's why oxytocin is used more in experiment than vasopressin, but it doesn't mean it's more important. It's equally important.
Are we ever too old to fall in love?
Absolutely not. The system stays with you until you pass away. Doesn't change. So some people can fall in love, and I've seen it in their 80s.
And there's nothing that as we age, the changes in our body, nothing changes that system?
Not really. The system stays the same. Like anything in our body weakens a little bit as we get older. So maybe the intensity of the romance might be less than when you're in your 20s, but you still have it, and you still feel it, and still have the same obsession, thinking about your beloved all the time, the same delusion that everything will be wonderful forever, nothing will ever change between us, and so on. It's all the same chemical system, same effect.
How do challenges to memory, such as unfortunate Alzheimer's disease or dementia, how does that affect our ability to be in love?
It's actually very interesting. Alzheimer's, all of that, wipe the memories, but not the memories of love. Memories of love are very deeply ingrained in the limbic brain and stay for us forever. Many times I see patients with advanced Alzheimer's who doesn't know the wife, doesn't know their children, and so on, but you ask them about the love, what happened, they tell you everything in very fine details. That they don't forget. It's probably the last thing to go is these memories and their name. Most people remember the name until they are very, very advanced. So it's the same for memories of love, stay with us forever. Everyone remembers his first kiss, everyone remembers first time they had sex, everybody remembers all these very emotional things, and they don't forget it.
So if someone's suffering from Alzheimer's disease and their partner, their spouse, is in the room and they may look at them, they may not recognize the face, but do they remember the feelings of love for that person?
Yes, they do. They do.
And how does that manifest?
Usually if you ask them, I remember having a man who didn't know how many children he has. He knew that one of his children is a doctor, but didn't know which one, where he is. When I asked him about, are you married? Yes, we married too. I'm married to Maria. Okay, tell me about how you met Maria. He remembered everything in very fine details. Had no problem with that at all. He couldn't remember his children, but can remember his love story with Maria that is stayed in his memory for a very long time.
That's wonderful. Does science have a strategy to support long-term love relationships when the excitement has worn off?
There are different methods that are known to enhance love and romance, and that's by sort of enhancing the natural method that enhances that. One of them is intimacy. People that are more intimate tend to have stronger love than those that are not, because intimacy actually releases the nonapeptide, the oxytocin and vasopressin, which makes you strongly bonded to the other person. And that has been proven scientifically in animals and in humans too. So intimacy is very important. People that are not very intimate likely will have a weaker true love phase.
What would you like your readers to take away from your book, True Love?
Love is an unconscious automatic behavior, so follow your instinct, don't fight it. Don't try to use your brain to think that it is the one designed to find love for you. It is not. And the more you read about 10 steps to do this and 12 steps to do that, the more difficult you make it for yourself. You're like in the example I mentioned about the airplane. You're like the marketing department that's trying to decide what the best way to modify the airplane to make it good. The marketing department is not qualified to do that. It should get less involved, not more. So my advice is follow your instinct. Accept falling out of love as a phase in love. Just like you accept a woman accept labor, which is painful and uncomfortable, as part of having a child. They put up with it, they accept it because they know the reward will be much bigger. So when you are out of love, wait and true love will come. Will take time, but it will.
A hopeful message from my guest, Dr. Fred Nour, author of True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. Dr. Nour, one more time, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about your work.
Okay, there is a website for the book. It's called True Love Book, all one word, truelovebook.net. And it's available, easiest way is Amazon in USA and Amazon in Canada.
Dr. Fred, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Destination Unlimited. This has truly been very enlightening.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.